good afternoon. Welcome to this training session, courtesy of our IT support at McGill University. As we all know, internet has become a very dangerous place. You cannot get COVID or Corona over internet, but you could get all kinds of other nasty things. And in order to make us safer, we are now pretty much forced to introduce certain protective measures. And we're going to hear today about one protective measure that is going to be obligatory for everybody who wishes to log in any of the services of McGill University. We are very fortunate that IT support is giving us this time and provide experts. And I would introduce first Nicola Wright, who is IT change manager, to start the proceedings and the training. Nicola, it's all yours. By the way, this session is being recorded and will be available to all Neura members at our website. Okay, Nicola.
Thank you, Ante, and welcome everyone. I just wanted to thank Ante and Kate for all their efforts to getting us to this point so we can have this session. So thank you for that, Ante and Kate. I'm just going to introduce my team. We're working on 2FA together. We have Amanda Morris, who is our communication specialist, who's been working on 2FA. With us. We have Martin Mork, who is our technical SME and 2FA expert. And we have Victoria Nguyen, who's going to be actually doing the presentation and starting the presentation off. She's our project manager for the 2FA. So we'll be here throughout the training session to help support and answer any questions that you will have. Okay. So Victoria, would you like to go ahead and start?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to get this message across for this population. So why do we have to implement 2FA at McGill? Well, as Ante has briefly touched base on it, I mean, the cybersecurity aspect has been, the cybersecurity threat actually has been increasing over the last couple of years. If you follow the news, you're probably hearing about big organization that has been a victim of ransomware, where they got their data stolen and they made the news, right? So we don't want to be in the news for those reasons. So for the bad reasons, we want to be in the news for good reasons. So McGill is not really shielded out of these attacks either. I mean, the higher education sector has been quite a bit of a big target for cyber criminality as well. So we wanted to put actually these special measures in place to actually help us protect our data, protect our accounts, and protect the individuals that are part of our community. So really, security is something that everybody has to be conscious about. It's not only the responsibility of the university, obviously, but also for its users, because it only takes really one account to be compromised and people to start impersonating you and using your access and using your credentials to actually infiltrate the network and start, like, you know, navigating and stealing some of the precious information that researchers are working on, or even, like, you know, intellectual property that we're part of. So from that aspect, we need everybody's help. And then we've been working on this project for quite a bit of a time now to actually provision all of the McGill accounts that we have, including staff, as well as students, but as well as retirees. So right now we're tackling all the accounts that are currently at McGill. Hence, we're having this discussion today with you. So 2FA really stands for second factor authentication. And again, it's not the silver bullet that's going to protect us from against everything, right? We have some stats here that says that Microsoft actually believes that 99.9% of the attack could be blocked by 2FA authentication. But we have to actually be more even prudent in terms of like making sure that we don't reuse the same password across many accounts. So regular changing of your password as well is some mechanism that you can use as well to secure your access. But this is one of the methods that the university is pushing forward. So we're hoping that everybody will actually help us get to a better secured place. So next slide, please. So how does it work? I mean, you normally use your login, which is your username and your password. The second factor authentication is really adding the extra step, right? So it's something you know, which is your password, and something you have, which is usually a code or a notification that you would get through your mobile device or through the device that you're using to actually access services at McGill. So that second factor is the password, but what we're pushing forward is really the notification that you would get through your mobile device. All right, next slide. So what do we do and how do we do it? Really, right now, we have been pushing on the webpage at www.mcgill.ca/2FA all the information regarding the 2FA. So you can actually enroll yourself if you follow the instruction on the webpage today to actually start following the instruction and getting yourself proof up with the second factor. But as I said, we've been working with communication to actually promote this for a while now. And then we're giving a dates right now of October 13th to actually push all the accounts into mandatory 2FA. So we have the opportunity now, about 2 weeks period, that we're giving you to actually, if you have the time, to go in and do it ahead of time. But on October 13th is really the mandatory dates when all the accounts will be pushed, I guess, from this group. So we're obviously encouraging you to do it prior to this date, but that actually on this specific date, your accounts will automatically be provisioned, and you would actually required to do the 2FA in order to access any of the McGill services that you wanted to get access to. So one of the things that we're trying to do is obviously send communication via email. So you'll get also instructions from IT communication detailing the steps that you need to take. And then we try to send reminders as well to the population. So part of the discussion today is to get you early on, so then you can do it and then avoid really the last minute and being locked out, right? So you have a couple weeks now, and then obviously if there's any support, any help that you need, we do have a help desk team that could stand by and support. And I think the next step, you will have Martin show us a little bit more details of showing us the demo of how it's being done. So we welcome questions. If you have anything, either put it in the chat or we can answer them live at the end of the session. So Martin, I'll leave the floor to you.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Martin. I'm one of the service desk agents here at McGill. We're about 20 folks over there sitting there, going to be waiting to help you out if you have issues with 2FA. There's a slide that's coming up a little later on that will tell you how to get in touch with us. So we'll get to that. First thing I'm going to do 2 run-throughs here. Basically, one will be the first one. I'm just going to show you how 2FA works, just so you can get an idea of how it does work, and then we'll do the actual configuration run-through. So let's suppose I wanted to access my account. This example, I'm going to access my account in the browser. Now, you might not be using a mail application, but for the sake of time, what we have here, I'm just going to use the browser login as an example. So from McGill.ca, at the very bottom of the page is where you're going to find most of the common links you would access. So if you're looking for this link, you can always find it reliably here. And for faculty and staff, we can just click here. And so basically, I apologize. I have to, I might be on VPN. I'm not. Just give me a second. I will have to reproduce that again. Okay, so I'll start from the top. Okay, so I'm getting prompted now. So here's what it looks like. It'll tell you that we've sent an approval to your Authenticator app. Now that's my default method. That's the method that I've got set up as the default. So that's the message that will come up. If for some reason I didn't have this device available and I've configured a second device, you will be configured, by the way, to configure at least 2 authentication methods. You can select this option here. And you'll have a choice for some other options that you have configured. Now, I've got quite a few configured, and I do recommend that you have a secondary device configured as a backup, just in case you lose your phone, for example. You won't be able to access your account maybe at a crucial time. So if you have like the Authenticator app and perhaps the second device could be your landline, then it's good to have a secondary method. For the sake of the demonstration, I'm just going to select Authenticator app. And what will happen, what I'm going to show you next is this application here. So this is my phone, actually, that I'm able to show you my phone from this application running on my desktop, and that's what would happen on my phone. I would get a pop-up like that. I press approve. I'll go back to the other window. I might have to refresh that, actually, because I did go away from that option and come back in. So I'll refresh. I'll have to do that one more time. I'll send it again. And there's the approval. I'll go back to the other window. And it took me right away to this option, to stay signed in. Okay, so yes, I want to continue. And I'm looking at my mailbox. So that's basically how it works. Now, if you want, let's do a demonstration to show you how you would set up 2-factor authentication. I have to do all this in an incognito window each time. So I'm going to use a demo account to do this. So so as was mentioned earlier, the 13th is your date where you will have no choice. You'll get a message that will come up on your screen on the 13th. It's going to look like this. More information required. Your organization needs more information to keep your account secure. If you wait until the 13th, that's what you're going to see. And then you'll have to go through the steps. So we encourage you to do it earlier from our 2FA website. Okay, and you can arrive at this page. And let's move this out of the way. And so here on the landing page, we've already talked about what 2FA does and how it works. You get a general idea. And then I'd like to, while I'm here, just draw some attention to the facts section, which is where you can get a really great deal of information about how it's going to affect you in different scenarios. So before you do the early enrollment, as I recommended, you, of course, point out that there's a link here to the instructions as well. This page has a tremendous source of information about questions that you can have, and we're going to point to these questions during some question and answer period, but you should really browse through this. I recommend that. So when you arrive at the enrollment page, you'll have to log in here, as it says, to actually view and submit the form. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Use my test account. Okay, and because I've set 2-factor authentication up, actually this page is 2FA protected. So it will prompt me to set up 2FA now. Here I'm putting the cart before the horse because before we set everything up, I had to enroll this account for 2FA. That's not the way I wanted this to go, but we're just going to go with it here. So it's asking me to set up 2FA now, and that's what I'll just go ahead and do. So you see the first thing it asks you to do is to set up the Microsoft Authenticator app. Now, if you don't have a smartphone, if this is not possible for you, there are other options you can select. Now, you might have another app that you can use, but more likely you'll want to select a different type of method that you have. And the type of options you can have in this list are a phone. At this point on the first stage, you would only be able to select a phone, and that would be a landline, for example. I'm just going to go and demo the Authenticator app because that's the ideal scenario. You got much as to say to set up your account, and you'll click next. And here we got a QR code. So on my phone, let me just get that going. I'm going to show you my screen now. Can everybody see my camera? Can I get somebody to confirm that they can see my camera? Yeah,
We see the QR code.
You still see the QR code?
You see the QR code, but we
okay.
can.
Okay, I'll stop screen sharing. Now you should be able to see my camera. I guess that's what I did. You guys can all see my
right. So if everybody goes to full screen view, you'll be able to see his camera better.
So the instructions on that page said to get the Authenticator app. I'll just show you how you would get that actually. So you would go to, I'm running an Android. So if you have an iOS device, you would go to the Apple Store. But for me, I go to the Play Store and I'm just going to put in search for Authenticator. And in the top results for Authenticator, or we could better off search just for Microsoft Authenticator. But just searching for Authenticator will give you, it'll come up as in your top search results. And the icon you can see is the blue one. I think it's a bit bright, isn't it? So I'm going to try and reduce the brightness. That will help you to see a little bit better. Okay. So this is what the app looks like, Microsoft Authenticator app. I've already got it installed, so I'm just going to click open. Now, this is the first time I'm launching the app, and this is what it would look like for you as well. The first thing that comes up is that you have to agree to the terms. And we get to this page, and this can be problematic sometimes if you say sign in right away. So what we try to avoid is just get the app installed on your phone and then set down your phone and go over to your computer. And there's an interaction that's going to happen between the two of them. And what we're going to do from this menu, you'll see, I'll scan the QR code. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And so we want to capture this QR code. So I'm actually going to click that button now that said scan QR code on my phone. And I'm going to hold up the phone. I apologize. I think there's some useful information here that I want to show you. So when I selected scan QR code, the first important thing that comes up is that allow the Authenticator app to take pictures and record video. So if you don't select allow, then the camera will be prevented from taking the QR, a picture of the QR code. So you have to allow it. And now, as you can see, it basically is ready to take a picture. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my phone up to the screen. I'm not going to press a button or anything, and it will just automatically capture it. All right, so now on my screen that I've captured it, I'm going to click next. And it's going to tell me that it's sending a notification to my phone. So I need to go back over to my phone again. Okay, and so what happened when I clicked next on the screen? I got this message that says app lock is enabled. So app lock, what that is that's a feature on your phone. There's a similar thing on Android and iPhones, and it's basically it's the same way that you would log in to access your phone. So if you have some kind of password on your phone, or like for iPhone users, it's a fingerprint maybe sensor to allow you to access the app. And whatever your method is that you set up for your phone is the same method that what app lock is enabling here. So you won't be able to launch the application without unlocking it. So there's my approve button for the test notification. Okay. In theory, if I go back to my screen, okay, we ran it. It took a bit too long for me to explain that, so I'm going to have to redo it. So it's worth noting that during the setup, you have to be kind of quick enough to go through the process so that you don't get stuck with that kind of situation, because the browser session does time out. So I'm just gonna hopefully get a new code here. Won't be long. Okay. Okay, it's activating. I'm going to click next, and I'll get an approval on my phone, and I'm going to approve, and then you'll see a green line that's going to come up here shortly telling me that it's been activated. Notification approved. I'll click next, and it tells us that step 1 of 1 is completed. So then the second part that comes up by default is a phone number. So for me, it's going to be my cell phone. You can all know how to call me now. I'm going to get a text on my cell. I can actually show you what that looks like on this application. I think there it is. So you get a notification that's the number of the text identifier, but then the actual code comes up in the body of the. Sorry, that's my phone. I'm going to just grab this from my phone rather than with this application. So 403-243. And that's it. I've set up 2 methods now. At the end of all this, I see that my phone was successfully added. The Microsoft Authenticator app was successfully added, and I'm basically done at that point. I'll say stay signed in, and basically I'm looking at my mailbox. So I ended up doing all that. I not to get to my mailbox, actually, just to get to this page, which is where I wanted to start. But so I'll talk about that now. To start from the beginning, then we get to this page where you have to enroll into 2FA. And before you come down here and submit and put in your email address, which shows up here, and you submit, you have to select a couple of fields here. Now, the purpose of these questions is to make it to avoid you from having issues on unexpected sort of compatibility issues with what you have available as authentication methods. So these are the required minimum requirements that you can use as authentication methods. If you have a smartphone, that's the best case scenario. If you have a cell phone, that works great as well. You can install the app on like the flip phone standard type of phone that's not smart, but you can configure it to receive a text or receive a phone call. Your landline as well, you can use your home phone. And it's possible to install an application. It's called Authy. I'll just quickly show you kind of what it looks like. So this application is called Authy, and it generates a 6-digit code, similar to the type of 6-digit code that you would get on your phone. This application is used for type of situations where you really have very minimal options to authenticate. So it's just good for you to know. And so, or you could say none of the above. And if you find yourself in that situation, well, then you would be best off to call us and we can explore some options together. But again, the idea is you need a second physical device to be the second factor of authentication, right? So the smartphone, you can travel with it really easily. And the Authenticator app isn't tied to your SIM card. So let's suppose you leave the country and you want to access your mail while you're away. Well, you won't be able to configure your landline as an authentication method because you have to be able to answer that call each time you go to access your account. So the smartphone is preferred, and as you saw, all I had to do was press approve to log in. That's much easier than receiving a 6-digit text every time. Right. So, and if you can do the smartphone option, that's the best. That's the best thing. Then the mail application can be relevant as well. So as I showed you in the demonstration, I was accessing my email in the browser. You might be using an application to manage your mail. And if you do, the technology with 2-factor authentication means that you have to have an operating system that is fairly modern. So you have to be using Mac 10.14 or higher, and Outlook 2016 or higher, or other applications that support, if you're, I don't know how many of you would be using Linux, or, but there are certain applications that run on Linux that are popular and that do support modern authentication, which is the 2FA part of the running in the background. So again, the idea with this list is just to make sure before you submit that you meet the minimum requirements. Okay, and then if you're using Outlook and you've got smartphone selected, then you can, at that point, you could submit and go through that wizard as I showed you earlier. And that's pretty much it. I guess we can take care of whatever else comes after that with questions. I'm going to let go of the presentation at this point, and we'll see whatever else we need to talk about.
Are we taking questions?
Okay, Auntie, are you going to?
Yes, we could take questions, and
Okay,
you could ask straight, because there are not that many people. We don't even need to go through the chat box. I will look at the chat box.
Okay, I'll ask it directly. It's Marie-Louise Moreau. First of all, this is very embarrassing, but I don't have a smartphone.
That's fine.
Lucky you.
And what else is embarrassing is I love doing income tax reports, but that's another thing. So I haven't a smartphone. Obviously, I have I have a desktop.
Right.
So I presume that, and number one, can I do all of this in French?
The wizard, I assume, if you got your settings set in Office set to French, like when you access your mailbox.
Everything is in French.
So it should be the same.
Okay.
Okay, because it's all managed by Microsoft, and it should detect your language.
Okay.
Again, we can help you if anything like that comes up. Then we certainly can help you with that.
Okay.
There were two questions in the chat box. Oh, sorry. Did you have additional questions?
Yes. Under the QR code during the presentation made by Martin, there's a place that says, I want to set up a different method.
Right.
What is it?
So again, if those methods that are legitimate methods or that qualify are your cell phone.
Sorry, Martin. It's just because I'm like the other lady who's saying in French instruction, I don't mind the English instruction, but I don't have a smartphone and I don't deal with Microsoft application. I don't have Office 365. So
there's lots of people. We've been helping people for the last year or so when we got well out of the pilot stage, who have all kinds of different types of situations. So that's fine. We're trying to encourage you to use it if you have it. If you don't, that doesn't mean that you can't get this configured. So you would have to, at that point, do you have a cell phone?
I have a cell phone, but it's not a smartphone.
That's fine. So when we're setting up 2FA, you noticed earlier in my presentation, I showed you that you can choose another method if you don't have the Authenticator app. So that at that point you would just select phone, and then you would go and put in your the country and then the 5-digit code, and then you'd be able to configure it. And that would be your first code. Now, here's the next thing is that you're going to still have to finish the setup, and the setup requires you to configure at least 2 authentication methods. Now, at that point, you can maybe configure your landline at home if you have a landline as well as your cell phone.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's a great scenario, in my opinion, because at that point, you have a backup. Now, let's suppose you lose your cell phone. At least you can get into your account by answering your home phone. Right? And I just want to reiterate again that you have to have your device with you when you're logging in, right?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Can I read some questions from, there are questions that were already posted in the chat box. So one question is, can I use iPad?
Yes.
Okay.
You can download and install the Authenticator app on an iPad. That's great. That will work fine.
Okay. If I travel and use another laptop or computer, how does that work if I don't have a cell phone?
Okay, so if you need to travel and if you don't have a laptop, I assume that in that question that person doesn't have a phone or a smartphone. Like again, so if you
actually, it's me, and I travel. I actually have a smartphone, but I travel with another McGill person who doesn't, and we share our laptop. So we'll both be using the same laptop to access email. And sometimes at a hotel, it's a hotel app laptop or business office in the hotel.
So for you, you have a smartphone and you can configure the Authenticator app.
But my companion, if he wanted to also look at the hotel computer, for example, to get his emails.
Right, and he doesn't have a phone or a cell phone, right? Is that what you're saying? So for your companion, what we could do, we could install Authy, that desktop application that I showed you a screenshot of earlier, or just when I was sharing my desktop. And it basically what it does is it's an application that runs on your computer. And
you would install it on the hotel computer? There's a let's say it's a hotel computer. That's how people travel quite often, maybe especially retired people. They don't bring their computer.
A public computer, basically, is what you're saying, right? So no, you wouldn't be able to install Authy on a public computer. You would need, when you travel, you would have to figure out a way to have some way of being able to either answer a call, receive a text, or use an application. So there has to be a way he could bring his personal laptop, and that would become his authentication device.
Okay. Could he use my smartphone? Like, could one smartphone handle two different people?
In theory, yes, it can, but we don't want to set up people's accounts on other people's phones. From an IT security perspective, you know, like you're going to get pop-ups at that point on your phone that say approve your login for his account. You don't want that.
No, I don't want that.
No. So that's definitely not a good idea.
And my second question, I'm the one who asked about QR codes. I recently went to a restaurant and they wanted me to get the menu using a QR code that I would scan and take a picture of. And the same thing when I went for a COVID test. And it wouldn't work. And my daughters told me I need to install an app that reads QR codes. Is this part of it?
I guess it depends on your phone version. Usually most newer phones will allow the camera just detects that there's a QR code there automatically and snaps it up. Now, when you go to a restaurant and you're standing in line and you want to grab like, you know, they have the COVID one, I think that's what you're talking about, right? So you can sort of show where you've been geographically to report to the government app, if I'm not mistaken. Now that you just hold up your camera to, and if your phone has a good enough camera and has sufficient technology, then it should pick up scan that image and detect it automatically. What are the reasons it's not working for you? There's either one of two. The first one issue could be that your phone is not new enough and it can't leverage that feature in the phone camera, or you just need to give permissions to the camera to capture it, because that happens on the phone as well when you're configuring the I mentioned it.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah,
so, I noticed. The application said in order for you to be able to scan a QR, you have to allow the camera needs permissions via the application. So there might be a permission issue in your camera. Mm-hmm.
And so it could be permissions, you're right. If it is because my phone is old, which it is like 2015 or something like that, then if I install this QR code app, I'm okay?
So yeah, there's minimum requirements for the app. I can tell you offhand, Android, iOS, I believe 11 is the minimum requirements for the app. But if you go to the Apple Store and you find the app, it will always tell you what the minimum requirements are. I believe it's Marshmallow or version 6 for the Android.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we go on. The question is, which McGill services are affected?
That's a good question. Right now, the only service at McGill that you have to have 2FA for right now is actually VPN. But as soon as you turn on 2FA, you'll start to see it appear in different applications. The most obvious one is going to be anything to do with Office 365. You guys only probably have access to there are some emeritus professors, so I'd imagine they have more maybe Office 365 access possibly. So again, for you guys, it's mostly going to be email. I believe the pension site might also be 2FA protected as well.
Yes, and the library?
The library, I didn't check to see if that's been 2FA turned on. things are going to sort of start happening. We're going to 2FA protect more and more sort of services as you go along. So don't worry about it. If you've got 2FA set up and you'll just log in to access that service, you'll get a 2FA prompt and in you go. So you're going to need it either way. If it's not today, it's going to be in the months to come where we're going to enable it for all publicly accessed websites.
Well, I know I needed it to get into Workday if I wanted to look at my tax form.
And the tax receipts as well.
Yeah, tax receipts.
Okay, we move on. There was a question from Jane. A QR code. Do I need it?
We did that.
We did it, yes. I'm just recognizing. I think, Kathy, you asked a question and I interrupted you. You have a question, Kathy?
Me?
Kathy Lauer.
Okay, no, I had a direct message question, like one that isn't was sent to everyone, so Auntie, you wouldn't have seen it. Michael Rainville wants to know, will Authy work on Linux?
Oh, am I not allowed to ask my question?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I put it on chat and I sent it to everybody. Sorry, I'm really sorry. For some reason, I had this down for 2:30, so I've missed the first half. Is there going to be a recording or something that I can?
Yes,
okay.
It is being recorded and you will be able to see it again.
Okay.
More than
great.
once. More than once.
Oh, great. I'll probably need to watch it more than once. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay.
So the question was about Linux, actually. I'll just quickly say that, yes, it is. You can install Authy on a Linux computer. It's possible. Yeah.
Okay. Question from Richard. Which email clients will no longer work? I had an Office 2010 local install on my laptop, and it no longer works with 2FA.
That's correct. So
the end of the question is, I'm now forced to use Office web client.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there that will no longer work? Are there any other clients that will no longer work?
Right. So my first question for that person, you're running Office 2010. Which operating running? Sounds like you're running Windows 7.
Richard, are you using Windows 7?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
yep. I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm running Windows 10.
Oh.
But I had a local install of Office when they used to sell it in McGill for $10, and I've been using it.
Yeah. I have that. So no, modern authentication only sort of surfaced at 2013, and it doesn't come out of the box compatible. You have to sort of do this registry edit to make it work. So 2016, that's the minimum system requirements for Outlook. Now, what you can do on your Windows 10 machine is there's a mail application that's called Mail. If you just search for Mail from the Start button, the Windows 10 Mail client, that works, and it's quite similar to Outlook in my opinion.
Yeah, I've used that for my other mail accounts, but I've not got anything with all three.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I've kind of figured it out for myself, but for others, are there other popular clients like 2Cows or something? I don't know what people use as email clients that are now going to.
Yeah. There's so many mail clients out there. At McGill, we only really publicize and sort of get behind applications that are available from our knowledge base, and we try to stay in Outlook and Windows 10, since it's the supported operating system, the Windows 10 mail client as well. But we don't. I haven't really looked into it myself. We try to stay in what we support.
Okay, here's the question that was already. Sorry, Richard, you have follow-up questions?
No, I stand. Okay, thank you.
All right, this was already answered, but let's put it again in a different context. My husband is already set up for 2FA on the smartphone that we share. Can I use that phone number too?
Right. So yes, you can. Again, as I mentioned earlier, what the danger in that is when somebody else is accessing their account. If you're both simultaneously accessing your account, so you have to approve. There could be some call it, if you want to call it, confusion as to what account you're approving, I guess, right? But husband and wife at home together, I don't see that as being a big problem. I certainly wouldn't recommend that if you're going your separate ways at the end of the day. And you live in different homes, that's going to be a problem. So yes, you could do that. I don't see a problem. Just if one of them travels and one of them has the phone, I guess the person who's traveling will have to leave with the phone, and the person who's at home has to have another way to access their account, or the husband or the wife will have to approve for them while they're away. So it's not ideal, but you can make that work if you have no other options. Go ahead.
Okay, if I wanted to use a McGill PC on campus to access my email, do I need 2FA?
No. When you're on campus, you're whitelisted for two-factor authentication. The only thing that's going to happen, and I haven't mentioned this yet, about something called SSPR. SSPR comes with two-factor authentication, and what it does, it's a feature that lets you recover your password by yourself if you lose track of it. And during the setup, if you're having problems deciding on a second method, you can actually choose one of those SSPR methods, and those are email, would be like your Gmail account, or security questions as a second method. So if you really only have one method and we require you to do two, you can actually get through the setup with an SSPR method. Sorry, now I've lost track of the question. What was it? Can you bring me back in context here?
Yeah, I have to find a question. Yes, it was a question on campus.
On campus, right.
Yes.
So what I wanted to say about every 6 months when you're on campus, you'll get an SSPR proof up. They'll want you to validate your SSPR information if you're on campus. I'm just throwing that out there. It's not going to really affect you guys. But other than that, while you're on campus, you should never get a 2FA prompt.
Okay, another question.
We're talking about, excuse me, we're talking about on campus and we're retired. We're not working. We're on campus in the library or the music building or something. Right.
So if you're connected to Wi-Fi, that's whitelisted. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I do not have a smartphone, but I can use an iPad that receives messages only with a non-McGill email address. Can I set up my second 2FA on this iPad?
Absolutely. Any application or any device, whether it be your mobile phone or your tablet, has to be a mobile device. Unfortunately, the Authenticator app won't install on a PC or a Mac, on a desktop computer. But if it's a mobile device, you should be able to install the Authenticator app on that. Yep.
Okay. Here's a comment from Amanda. SSPR is self-service password reset. Okay, now we are near the end.
Kathy,
question is, what is whitelisted?
What is whitelisted?
Yes, that was a question.
Oh, what does it mean when I say whitelisted? It means basically that you won't receive a 2FA challenge when you're on McGill's network. When you're on our network, it's kind of like a protective bubble where you can just log in, access any of your account activity without getting a two-factor authentication challenge. That's what that means.
Okay, any more questions? I don't see any in
Kathy Mayhew has a hand raised.
Go ahead.
Kathy?
Thanks for your patience, Kathy. I see you waiting there.
It's all right. It's really being used more and more, this two-factor identification, where you have to have two different devices to do it. And I understand for security, it's just very awkward. When we're at home, we can use the laptop or the desktop and the telephone or the iPad and receive an email message. When we're traveling, however, obviously the desktop at home stays at home. We don't have a laptop. The smartphone is full because it's an old one. And so it doesn't let me scan QR codes. I can't even look at pictures anymore. I have to update it at some point. I could use the iPad. If I'm using the iPad, then I guess I would have to use a different one, because the phone, I can put the phone on and give it a mobile for a text or a call when I'm at home. But if we're in Australia and have used a new SIM card, it wouldn't recognize the same telephone number.
Correct.
If we use the public hotel phone, public computer, just to check some emails on the way back in from the pool, or use our son's computer, it means you've got to go up and get your iPad and have your iPad right beside you.
Okay, so yeah, that's the caveat, right? Two-factor authentication. The second factor is a physical device. Unfortunately, it's required for you to be able to access your account. One thing I want to mention that I also apologize for not mentioning is that there's an option at the login when you get to the page that says we've sent a notification to your device. There's an option there that says don't ask me again for 60 days. So as long as you're using that computer and that browser, you won't get prompted. Now that doesn't necessarily help you with your situation, I understand, because you're talking about when you travel. You're not going to obviously be able to leverage that feature, but I wanted to mention that for everybody, just so everybody understands that you don't have to authenticate all the time. If you're on your regular work computer, you can just say, don't ask again for 60 days. So to get to your question though, yes, I think your iPad sounds like it's going to have to be your second factor of authentication. I realize it's inconvenient, but we try to get behind the idea that it's a necessary security feature. Otherwise, without the physical device, you can't protect yourself to the way that we want you to be able to.
Thank you.
Would you then have
Nick,
to
sorry,
receive
go ahead.
an email on the iPad in order to authenticate it?
Okay, yes, you
Or
mentioned
would they
email
get
as
a
well.
QR code and you'd have to hold it up to the other
The
computer
QR
screen?
code is just for during the configuration, you'll have to snap the QR code, and that's just a one-time thing. After that, every
Okay.
other time you log in, you just press the approve button. Once the app is configured, you just press a button. It's so easy, really. Okay, so that whole configuration thing is just the first time, and then after that, it's easy peasy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Nick, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually a comment and a question. The comment is that I think for some people who are traveling abroad with limited resources, your only recourse may be to switch to a different email system, because you know that the kinds of things you were talking about, Kathy, it might be very complicated, and I think that that's really too bad. But that may be the only reasonable solution, a Gmail or something like that. The question is that, at least when I signed up for this, I signed up with my landline, and obviously it doesn't receive text messages. So when I get a call, I'm asked to press the number button, the double
hashtag thing. Yeah.
Now at that point, I got a cell phone, and I have a cell phone as a second method, but I didn't see a way of asking it to send a text message to the cell phone.
Okay, yeah. So actually, you've fallen into a sort of situation. We can help you with that. It's the way Microsoft does it. When you're setting up a phone, you can set up two phones as two authentication methods, but unfortunately, Microsoft only lets you set up the primary method with the text option. So you would have to call us. We would reset your account so you could set up everything again. And then this time you would set up the cell phone first so that you would be able to receive a text on it. And then the second method would be your landline. I know that's unfortunate, it's just that you started with your landline. Yeah. So the second phone number it adds doesn't have a text option. Unfortunately, that's sort of a strange limitation.
Okay, thanks. That's useful to know.
I wonder, Martin.
One other comment just is that in your extensive literature, when you talk about getting a two-factor authentication, and several times you mentioned that if you don't have a cell phone, you can do X, and one of them is just a link to Authy. But I think it's gone unnoticed by a lot of people that you don't need a cell phone if you're at home and you have a landline, and I don't think that's been well explained in your explanations. I think that's given a lot of people second thoughts. If you're just staying at home and you have a landline, it's very easy. And saying you need a cell phone is incorrect if you're not traveling. Obviously, if you're traveling, it's a different matter.
Good point. Okay, here's a question. If all I have is a laptop, then how does the Authy work? Is there some other alternative? I don't have a tablet or cell phone.
Okay, so okay, sorry, would you repeat that one more time? I apologize.
Yes, let me do it again. It's a bit convoluted. If all I have is a laptop, how does this Authy work? Right. Is there some other alternative? I don't have a tablet or iPad or cell phone.
Okay, so Authy would work. You install it. The configuration of Authy is a little bit trickier than the other ways. We have documentation for it. We usually point you to it, and you can try it. But I find that a lot of times people call us for assistance, and that's fine. We'll help you set it up. So, but for your scenario, you don't have a landline. Now, here's where you're going to get into trouble with Authy. When you launch the application, the first thing it will ask you to do Okay, this is a third party provided application that we picked up from McGill that we support. There are many others out there, but Authy is the one that seems to work the best and it's reliable. So when you launch Authy the first time, it asks you actually to activate it with a phone number. So you would have to be able to just do that one-time activation. You receive a phone call from Authy, similar to like you would to Microsoft, to activate Authy, and then after that you go through the setup process. So that's my only concern for that person, is that when you launch it, we get it installed the first time, you're going to have to answer a phone call. Why not just reach out to us at the service desk and we can talk about it more if you want, so we can, unless there's anything else you want to add that's important. Who was the person who asked?
It was somebody way up, Maureen, I think. Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes, Maureen.
Maureen. All
So
right.
Maureen,
Can we
we'll
get
keep going
some
then.
more from Maureen? Any additional comments?
Yes, we have Hershey Warshawski has been.
No, I'm talking about Maureen. She was
the one with the Authy issue.
That's right. Any additional question? If not, we go on.
Okay.
Next on my list is Richard. What's your question, Richard?
Okay. I've been listening to these vacation things and these local things. Essentially, if I have a tablet and I can travel with my tablet,
yep,
and you say there's a version of Authenticator for mobile devices,
right,
then could I put that on my tablet?
Absolutely.
And then use my web Outlook, and then those two would communicate? So it's not really satisfying two separate devices. It's things on the
That's
same
okay.
device.
Yeah. The separate part is that it's your, you have something and something you won't. So that's really where the separation is. If you're using your mobile device to access your account, you'll get a prompt and you'll approve it. You'll just press approve on your iPhone. That's what would happen.
No, I'm taking out the iPhone. I'm putting.
Sorry, the iPad. I meant to say sorry.
Right. So if I'm using my iPad, I have a Wi-Fi connection. I use my Outlook web client.
Yep.
I go in. It's going to send a thing to the same device.
Yes, it will. Yep, it will.
Okay, so you have control of the same device. It's kind of. But isn't that what you're saying that the Authy solution is for the PC? It's the PC and the second-party authentication software is on the same physical device.
Yes, it is on the same physical device. That's correct. Yeah.
So, okay.
So your computer with Authy becomes your physical device that you would use to authenticate.
Right. You also mentioned this 60-day option. Is that just controlled with a cookie, and that's why every time you use a different device?
I didn't want to get into the technical aspects of it. Not everybody's going to understand it, but it stores a cookie on your browser. So having said that, if you clear the cache in your cookies as regular maintenance on your browser, you're going to lose that 60 days and you'll have to do that again.
And some people were complaining about that, I had heard.
Or if you use two different browsers, it will be saved on one browser, but not transferred to the other.
Yeah. So you can get 60 days on one and 30 days might pass, and you might do 60 days on another browser, and then you have to sort of two the expiration dates at that point.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, Jan is asking, I use Microsoft Authenticator on my personal email address account. Can I use it for the McGill account?
Yes.
Also, or do I need another method?
You can configure several accounts on the Authenticator app. It doesn't have to be just the McGill one. You don't have to reserve the use of the Authenticator app for your McGill account. You don't have to. No.
Okay, here is one comment on 60 days, maybe explainable by two different browsers. A person whose name I don't see, that 60-day delay until next two factors does not work for me.
Right.
Question is it the same browser or not?
So we see that happen a lot with the Firefox browser, because Firefox is a very privacy-centric browser. And so right out of the box, it might be that Firefox is blocking cookies, and you have to add an exception into your privacy settings so that you don't get, so that site doesn't get blocked. I recommend calling us to troubleshoot that problem. We're almost always able to fix that. So just give us a call and we'll help you if you need help with that.
Amanda has sent to chat box the link to Authy instructions if anybody needs them. Okay, Irving is asking to follow up on Kathy's question. If I'm traveling and I sign into my laptop just before I leave, since I do not need 2FA, can I sign in to my laptop for 60 days?
Yeah, so that's right. That's a good good sort of way of thinking about it. If you take your laptop with you and you said sign in, don't ask me again for 60 days, as long as you're using the same laptop with the same browser, you can connect to a different network and you should be able to access your account.
And you did not remove your cookies.
Right, as long as there's no clearing your cache and cookies, then if you did that, at that point, it would negate that. Yeah.
Here's another question.
you'd
If
have
I
to
use,
Just to follow up on that, does that work if you use the Outlook, the desktop?
There's no 60-day option in the Outlook application. The way your mail is managed in Outlook is a little bit different than accessing your account in the browser. When you've got your account configured in Outlook, you won't get a 2FA prompt every day when you open up Outlook. So there's sort of a different type of way. What's it called? The term I'm blanking out on the term for it there, but the Outlook application itself sort of holds on to the session and keeps it active until a certain point. Now, what the timeout is on that, I would have to verify. I don't know, but it's probably a number of days before it will eventually prompt you to log in again. You'll see a message that says your organization requires you to sign in again. You'll sign in and then you'll get the 2FA challenge. Okay, but it's not like the browser where it happens instantaneously at that moment. It just happens every once in a while that the application will ask you to sign in again.
here's a question from Hector. If I use VPN, do I have to stop? I don't see any other.
Do I have to stop using it?
Yeah.
So you have access to VPN? The McGill VPN, the Cisco AnyConnect VPN?
No, another VPN.
You don't have VPN?
You could get a VPN to have privacy also.
Okay. Yeah. Having a privacy VPN, like a third party like Nord or any of these other companies, you can do that. What we see happen with those VPN companies, though, from time to time is those VPN companies give you an IP address on their network that they provide. And sometimes hackers use that service and then they get a bad reputation. So that particular IP address becomes blacklisted. And you're on that network while you're accessing your McGill account. And we might compromise your account because that IP address has been previously used for malicious activity. So it does happen. That's we try to, there's something called split tunneling on these VPNs that allows you to sort of say, this application, the Outlook application on my computer, let my computer's, my home network run in that application while everything else I do on the web is with the VPN connection. Now, I can't get into helping you with how to configure that. You'd have to go to the manufacturer's documentation to learn how to do that. That could help you to avoid getting compromised, though.
Yeah, well, I don't use the VPN for McGill things or.
No, well, I don't know that as retirees. I don't believe you guys have VPN access anyway.
No, I don't. No, that's right.
Okay, a question from Hershey.
Yeah, being a true McGillian, I always follow instructions. So when I first got the information, I went to IT to help me install it. And now it happened so long ago, I'm not sure that I actually am installed or not. So how do I verify that?
Well, when you access your account, do you get a two-factor authentication prompt? That's, I guess, the first way of testing?
Yeah, I probably do, but it's been such a long time that I'm not sure. I have the Authenticator.
Yep.
I get my email.
Well, I can verify that with you, and I'm happy to, but I don't want to cut into the time here.
Okay.
Give me a call. Give us a call, and we'll check that for you. That's something we can easily
I'll do that.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
You're welcome.
Hector, you have another question. Your hand is up.
Oh yeah, no, that's
All right, that's something else. Okay. Here's a question.
I'd like to know, please, I'd like to know what's the difference between a private browser and a VPN? Can I use the private instead of the VPN?
A private browser? Are you talking about like incognito browser?
Privately, yeah.
Private browsing is basically, it basically bypasses a lot of the settings on your computer. So that would also include the cookie. So if you were to try to access your account and you said, don't ask me again for 60 days, it would actually cause a 2FA prompt. So the private browser does a few different things. And now it says it's supposed to hide your identity. That's because it's not, when you go to a website, the websites that normally store cookies on your browser are not going to be able to do that in that mode. So you have some privacy when you go to websites, and they can't put tracking cookies. That's another type of cookie that goes on your browser when you visit a website. So in that respect, that's what we're talking about in terms of privacy. But that's not to say that your information, your internet activity is not trackable. It is still.
Good, thanks.
Okay, another question, and that's a loaded one. Can McGill not install 2FA for all retirees?
Install? Well, okay. So we talked about this leading up to this meeting, and I wish that I could have you guys sitting down in front of me and come and visit us. And we do have a walk-in. It's just, with the pandemic, we don't want to ask anybody to show up and put themselves at risk, right? So if you feel, if you're all vaccinated and you feel and you want to come down and get some insight and assistance, I don't know if that's really the question, but we can't do it for you in the back end automatically. We have to, it has to be set up physically, either with us or via support. Now we can do Zoom meetings if we have to. We use the Teams platform. You can go online. That's just going to come up a little bit. So hopefully we'll have time to discuss that before the presentation ends. You can book an online meeting with us. Okay, and then you can, and we can do like this kind of meeting, and where it's just you and the person who's going to help you, and we can sort of remote into your computer and even sometimes hold your hand through it, the whole process entirely. Okay, so that's an option.
All right, here's, well, I see 2 hands raised, but I believe these people have already been answered. I have a number of comments, and we all sympathize that retirees are really overwhelmed with this request to do things. I would like to repeat what our colleagues from IT support already said. Please, if you have problems, go and call them, and they will not stop explaining it until you are absolutely familiar with everything.
That's right.
And that's the best way we could do, because definitely 2FA is here to stay, and be lucky if we don't get even more complicated solutions for the dangerous internet that we have. I think we have reached the end of this question and answers session. Perhaps one last question before we fold this thing. Any other questions?
What is a phone number that we can use to reach you folks?
That'll be in the slide. I will have a chance. I think if we're going to be able to show that next slide, that information will be put up. But if you want to just quickly draw it down, it's 514-398-3398. There it is now.
Could you repeat that a little slower?
Sorry. Yes, 514-398. 3398.
3398.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we have to thank our IT support people, starting with Nicola, Amanda, Martin, and the name now escapes me,
Victoria.
and Victoria.
Anzai.
Yes, and we really appreciate your time and effort and your readiness to be on hand for any additional questions that did not appear in this session. Thank you so much. We always, I must say that IT support is one of the better services at McGill. At least you get it in a very short time. So thank you and bravo for your great
Thank you,
service.
guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
And for your patience, thank you.
Nice to see all of you. Watch out for next sessions